Okay, yeah, so I've been watching The Walking Dead, and then now Fear the Walking Dead. Awesome, best characters in these ones. Obviously, Rick, Michonne, Carol, Carl, Rick's son, Judith, Rick's daughter, Morgan, the relatively black man support kind of in there. Again, you also have the Asian guy who died. Well, spoiler alert. Oh, Daryl's another great character in The Walking Dead. Negan is another complex enough character in The Walking Dead. So there's a lot of different characters, a lot of diverse roles, a lot of people just trying to look and support. In my opinion, so when you watch this show is it's emotionally complex in terms of like who you want to root for. That's it. Glenn as well, the Asian guy. I love Glenn. Absolute awesome character. One of the main things that you understand that as a black person walking into the show, you completely notice is the at least from season one to season three, you have it's the running joke of the black man swap. They never have more than one black man as the main character within the first one to I think 1 to 3 season 1 to 3, where literally you have it's just I think what the first one starts off with T Dog. I mean, it's very interesting because it's like well, first you also have Daryl's awesome character, and then you have his brother Merle. But it's very interesting that like T Dog is this kind of big black guy who seems to be like a grunt or something, and he seems to be surviving. Big guy, whatever, but as far as I'm aware, can't do shit. Like you just look at this guy, you watching this guy, and you're like, this guy can't do shit. It's like, how is this guy still surviving? How is he still like? Because and what it really kind of irritates a black person, you watch as you're watching the show, you kind of like as you watch the show, you see that some people are good at fetching water, some people are good at gathering food and stuff. Some people are good at shooting, some people are good at killing the walkers, surviving, hiding, making strategies and planning and stuff. But when you watch T Dog, it's like he not. One time he dropped the gun. He's always getting injured. He's always just being useless. I mean, it's like, how is this guy still surviving? It was like the worst representation of a black person. He gets his ass kicked by a racist motherfucker, and you're like, he can't even fight, can't even defend his corner well. You know what I mean? And I guess it's a massive kick for morality in that sense. That like, which is interesting. I mean, it makes it for a better show kind of thing, but it's also as the only black representation for like one to several seasons. Worst black representation that they had going. And then after that, you have other black people, male characters who come in, and what you start to really see is you just don't get a normal black person. Apart from black women, all the black men are very much neutered in some form of way. You have a black man who seems like one, you don't get traditionally attractive black people in these shows. It just makes, I mean, this is the reason why you have to think to yourself, thank God for Tyler Perry. It's the only way. Because, and it's just a massive misrepresentation of ideal looking black people. Because it's like, when you watch these shows, you get a lot of you just like, I think there's a lot of misrepresentation of just like it's like average looking black people walking around with very good looking white people. And all it keeps doing is just keeps shooting the black man down all the time. It's like, okay, they're super average. And white women go with, white people think that this is what the average black person would look like, well, I mean, yes, this is what the average black person would look like, but but the reality is they shouldn't be choosing ugly looking black people to be representing them on screen. And again, thank God for Tyler Perry. But in terms of being neutered, I mean, yeah, you have the or a standard looking black person versus relatively highly attractive other cast members. Very standard looking black man versus everybody else who are just seem to kind of more hyper attractive. The other point about it is that like yes, and that they're neutered. Literally, In terms of being neutered, one just can't do shit for anybody, T-Dog. Another one comes in, he comes in with his sister. Oh, he has that stupid, he has some kind of moral complexity. He doesn't want to just go around and survive and kill people and whatnot. And then after that, you then get, next one's a priest. Again, moral complexity. Then you also have Morgan, the only decent, capable, most acceptable. I mean, and I'm not saying he should be, and I'm not saying he's relatively acceptable, but the most acceptable black person that there is, Morgan. He's basically a one-man machine. He can fight, he can plan, he can do whatever. But what they have to give him, emotional crisis where he finds it difficult to really live in the moral gray area of, you know what, this person's bad and you should just kill them. This person is, and some people do bad things, but they're just trying to survive and you should give them a second chance. Whereas he doesn't seem to have the capability to make good judgments on that. In terms of Rick, the leader, the main character, I guess, him and Morgan practically have lost the same level, the same amount of people in terms of family members. And Rick went through his level of emotional crisis, but came out the other side, you know, relatively better and more equipped to deal with the world that he lives in than Morgan did. And even now, Morgan is still in The Walking Dead and he still has this moral quandary. You know, and it's like, it's like, can we not just have a black person who's normal? Can we not just have a black person who can just decide, you know what, this morality or some bullshit is actually, you know, I don't need to deal with it. This person is bad. I'm just going to kill it. You know, the Walking Dead, they're dead. I'm just gonna kill it. You know, I'm gonna live my life and survive. I'm gonna try to live the best life I can in this shitty world. And it's just it's very frustrating. Then you have the other factor. I mean, because it's like, honestly, I could go on about that. I feel like the creator must be not black, because it's the idea that you think that it's like they have to demean the black person in this. They have to demean a normal black person, not normal, but a standard black person. What, you know, every other person seems to have the choice and ease of use to be able to deal with their emotional dilemma. And yes, they have a little something swelling up and they move on, but it's like Morgan, all these other black people have to constantly be dealing with it. It's like, honestly, it's unbelievably, it's just frustrating to watch a show and you're just like, wow, okay, you know. And secondly, in the world of The Walking Dead, it's like, where are all the black people? Are you just literally in this main survival system? It feels like only 2 black people will survive. Are you kidding me? You're an idiot. Black people are the most superstitious people alive. They see something, they don't fuck around. And they ain't gonna fucking go to a ghost in a house when it says it's haunted. We ain't stupid like that. We ain't brave like that. You know, we're like, you know what? It says it's haunted. I'm gonna peace out and live another day. Scooby, you go find that ghost. See what happens. So that just makes no bloody sense. I'm not gonna lie. Then the other major part of the show that happens on Fear the Walking Dead and another show that I've seen that is being written by this writer, which is they clearly fetishize mixed interracial couples. Secondly, they all predominantly from ethnic female to male. It just seems that way. Especially with, basically they do fetishize ethnic couples, predominantly from male to female. So I guess so it feels like it's just written by a white person to live their interracial fantasies. To be honest, the only standard black couple that was there both died, gone within a 2 to 3 season period. The only other relationships that are around white, black. It's just one of those ones where you're just like, okay, yeah, you know, every other couple, the only single race couples that can survive in this show seems to be white situations. Every other ethnic couple seems, yeah, we're done, we're out, we're out of here. The show also very much placates to the audience, and they try to boost ratings a lot of the time too. So hence the reason why they kill off such decent invested characters that you'd be like, you know what, if this show could survive if Rick was gone, and they just kill off those things. It's the whole game. I suppose It's not even like Game. I think that they try to leverage the idea of Game of Thrones where they killed Sean Bean, and the difference was and they just don't do it as effectively because Sean Bean was a character that you did invest in, but the reason why they needed to kill Sean Bean is because they needed the people to understand that nobody is safe in surviving. This and it just seems like a lot of people that they killed off in this show was very much just for I don't know, just for boosting ratings and things. Like I mean, people mention it online. Honestly, I agree completely. They killed off Carl. They killed off so many people that you invest a lot of attention to, and it's just like you know, it kind of it really grips you away from the characters and rather tries to make you understand about tries to make you maybe just invest in the world and understand that these people are just disposable and therefore you don't actually want to believe that anybody can survive. But then on the other hand of it, like you also think to yourself, there's only one really if he was gonna survive, if he was gonna rebuild that world, there's only one character who you'd really want to use in that who'd be the most useful in that world. But even he's a bit of annoyance because he only has he's highly intelligent, but he doesn't share all the information that he could be sharing, which is very irritating. Secondly, a lot of the things, a lot of the stuff in this Black show doesn't make sense. Like the first, you are the one thing that doesn't make sense about the show is they have a fort, but like small, small compound communities with gates around them. Basically, equivalent to what you could say was the Celtic times, hunter gatherer days. Well, maybe not. Yeah, hunter gatherer days. More Celtic times. They're working with older type industries and things like that. More about produce and things like that. That makes sense. But my first thought is, but the problem here is everything is vulnerable to the horde of the dead. Everything is vulnerable to the horde of the dead. Now, I mean, interesting thing about it was that is they created characters who you learn early on that you can essentially walk among the dead should you slather yourself in their blood. But if that blood gets inside your system, you're buggered. You're done for. You're fucked, which is fine. My question is okay, how is it that nobody's gone about to experiment to find out? The dead seem to be able to detect the difference between somebody who's dead and lose interest, and somebody who's fully dead and who lose interest in them, and somebody who's still relatively alive and want to keep on consuming their flesh. But my question about it is, why has nobody ever thought about taking a pint of blood and pouring it on the dead and see what happens? Nobody's thought about doing that. It's like, would they consume themselves? Would they? You don't know. Would they rip each other apart? Which makes no sense. They have compound protected forts, and they know that there's always a possibility that they will be attacked by the dead, like a massive horde of the dead. And the problem here is when that happens, their chances of surviving a 200 horde of dead people walking to their door is very unlikely. So, and they always keep facing this challenge. What doesn't make sense to me is why is it that they don't build what they have the time? They don't build tree stumps that essentially you hold up by copper wire or some kind of string or whatever from the inside that you can literally release and smash the dead, reducing the amount that they have when it happens. It just doesn't make sense. Because you can reduce the amount or create a labyrinth of diversity because the power of the dead is that when they are in a herd, their forward momentum breaks down everything. So why would you not have some kind of labyrinth to separate that? Because once you separate amount of the dead or redirect them to a different direction, you can they're a lot easier to tackle. Or they could have some kind of pulley system that when the dead is coming, you could have a pulley system all the way that lines all the way into the middle of the forest outside of the walls that you can keep ringing and distract the dead. And because the dead are very highly sensitive to sound and sense and smells and etc. So honestly, I just feel like these people do not think about anything. They're just idiots a lot of the time. You're just like, you oh, it's like it's just stupid. They're just stupid. And the people who are more highly intelligent do not share information. The first time you really see somebody start utilizing people as resources is Negan. And yeah, relatively Negan was relatively a bad a bad leader. No, correction. Negan was a good leader, but I would say he was bad at building a community. He's a good leader, bad at building a community because he used fear, he used murder, he used fear, he used some kind of way he used these kind of tactics to essentially bring people together under the heel. And everybody knows humans are not built to live in a society. Humans are never built to live in a society where to live under somebody else's boot of heel. Humans are just not wired that way. Humans are egotistical. We need competition. Best form of society is a democratic capitalism. It just is. Like humans are wired that way. There's a reason why we like to own things. There's a reason why why we like to possess things. And even when people say you can't, we like to compete. And not is to say, I mean, we like to compete and we also like to collaborate. Not is to say that we don't like we can't do it in a friendly way. It's just more the idea that humans are wired a certain way. And when humans live under oppression, it has to stand that there's going to be somebody who's going to stand up to that. There's always going to be somebody in a society who's always going to go against the grain because that's what humans do. And it's all a matter of who will be on your side and how many people will be on your side to do that. When humans live under oppression, it's just a matter of time and no matter how many rebellions you put down, it's just a matter of time until one of them gets you. You can't force humans to live under oppression. It never works. So Negan was a good leader. The problem was he was just bad at building a community, a foundational community. He just really was, which is fair. But he's also the only person that you could look at and say, do you know what? He knew how to utilize humans as resources, not just look at them as people who would go out and go out and hunt and gather things for him, but to try and establish a hierarchical system, to try and establish some kind of bondage, some kind of a camaraderie, some kind of connectivity throughout the people themselves. Gather he did it in a lot of the wrong ways. Some of it still worked, but he was the only person that understood somebody who just seemed to be useless a lot of the time, but would say a lot of intelligent things and had the credentials to show that he was actually a highly intelligent person. He was the only person that was able to go, you're a very useful person. Let me put you to work. Let me give you the resources that I need for you to be able to solidify my reign even further. He's the only person that was able to identify skills that people had and start to leverage it for the good of the community. It was only after he started doing that suddenly everybody else started thinking more outside the box, more outside. Actually, let's try and survive. Let's just try and survive. Let's just try and thrive. I mean, there's so much to say about The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead is, I mean, hands down, is a great show. I can see why. I mean, in comparison, I would say, in comparison of the show, I like, Luke in Z Nation. Z Nation is a more lightweight version of The Walking Dead. I could see the difference. Why? I would say Z Nation is so much more lightweight, so much more fun, so much more funnier, so much more you can invest in the characters more, so much more interesting and more obviously because it's from sci-fi, the quality is a lot less. The quality of everything is a lot less, is a lot. The fun is a lot less, but it's so much more fun to watch. It's so much more. It's just so much. There's so much more camaraderie. Actually, camaraderie is actually the same. Is very much on the same level, or possibly less on Z Nation. But the characters, still, it's more. It's The Walking Dead for people who don't want to just keep watching emotional roller coasters. I just want to watch something lightweight and fun and cheesy to look at. I mean, me personally, I like The Walking Dead because it just feels like I like The Walking Dead a lot because it just honestly it's a good show, really good show. But so terrible in terms of so many ways, like flaws and for like ethnicity especially. It's just like give a black man a break, you know? Can we just not watch a show that's just gonna be like that's gonna do us right? You know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, it's not that I don't say the black people don't have emotional female, but come on, man, we ain't all out here half psychologically insane, you know? We're not. You know, I'm not anyway. I don't know. It's just frustrating because it's just like, and I hate that. It's just the whole trope of black people are just so forgiving and shit, and it's like, no, do you know? I mean, yeah, Africans, honestly, black people are the most forgiving. I think probably the most forgiving race there is, considering all the shit that's happened to them by everybody else. But reality is, let's not keep pushing this kind of stupid agenda. Like nobody gives a shit, and the religious crap. Can we end with it? Can we just end with it? Like, you know, come on. Not all black people are going to believe in fucking God and all this nonsense now. Like, God is fine. It's fine to believe in all that crap. But let's not keep pushing that, oh, black people are super religious. We're not. Black people from different countries are not. We're just not. Like, it's like, you know, let's just, I mean, I think millennials these days, millennial black people are not that super religious. We're just not. We're not built that way because we understand what it is. We understand the mechanisms behind it. You know, let's just try and find, can a black person build a real black person in terms of these shows? Like, I don't know. Give us a break, man. That's what I'm saying. Just a break.